Well, good evening. Thank you so much for being here for Celebrate Recovery. And thank you all who come in for remotely. This is just the introduction that we do remotely. This is a confidential group, as we always know, so that means that whatever's said here, the people that are here, they don't want folks to just like know that they're here sometimes, which is totally cool. And so, but I wanted to have you all remotely kind of get a feel for what we do in our new format, right? And our new format is we're going to be in the sanctuary, because it's great for our music, and it's great for our videos, and it's easier than chasing around the AVA person for the whatever the school, whatever it is. So let's begin with a little bit of prayer, all right? My Lord God, I bow my head this evening, aware of the constant reminder that you are around me. You abound in all I am, and all I have, and all I will always be. In this season of darkness, you are the light. In my season of worry, of fear, of addiction, of pain, in searching for answers, I realize that I do not have them, and that you do. Humbly I come to you this day, as I come to you every day, asking that you mold me as you see fit, that you restore me to the relationship that you have called me to be in with you, and you help me restore the relationships that have been broken in my life with others. I ask for patience, strength, and courage as I pilgrimage on this journey, and that I know I can never do it alone, and that you walk with me, and that you send others to walk along this journey of hope, peace, joy, and love, so that in this time, as we get to the point of December 25th and we celebrate the birth of Christ, I find again and again that it is Christmas Day in my heart. And for that, I rejoice with the angels. Peace on earth, goodwill to all of humanity. Amen. So we don't have online the music because they would kick us, Facebook would kick us off. So welcome one and all. Today I want to talk a little bit about Scripture, and then we'll get into the Celebrate Recovery text, and then we'll get to the Scripture that has to do with recovery. And so today, what I want to share with you a little bit, is the Gospel of St. Matthew. I'll be in Matthew all day. I almost feel like a comedian or something at Vegas. I'll be in town all week. And so, cutting right to today's lectionary of Matthew, I'm in chapter 11, verses 16 to 19, right? And so this is a teaching, right? So Jesus is trying to teach those who are listening to him. And this is like midway or early on in Matthew. Matthew's like 28 chapters. So we're not even at 50% into it, right? But he's going and visiting place after place, and he's trying to get folks to understand not only what he's about, but what this experience with God is about. And so as I often say, right, glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. And so Jesus said to the crowds, "To what shall I compare this generation? It is like children who sit in the marketplace and call to one another." So let me just stop right there, because what he's trying to talk about in this situation is not like our sense of generations, right? It's not generation X versus generation Y. It's not generation millennial versus generation baby boomer, baby boomer please, or whatever that saying is. This is not what this is about at all. What he's saying is the present people, the present time, the present place, which is what he's saying to is this generation, those who are old enough to hear the word and understand it. And he's saying, in essence, is all adults, this generation, this is absolutely you. I'm talking to you. They back up and he says, Jesus says to the crowds, right? And so the crowd is this group of people who are following him and who are kind of like in the culture of the day, right? And so they're not really prepared to hear a new message, to hear something. Okay, sorry, someone was clicking something on there. Now I've got something new. But they're not used to this change in thinking, this change in feeling, this change in how they're supposed to react. So it's the crowd, it's the culture, it's the community. It's the generation, it's the people he's talking to right now. And so we can consider ourselves the generation. And he says to them, it is like children, this generation, who sit in marketplaces and call to one another. And so I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where people are just talking, shouting out, and not communicating anything. I think that that's the definition of social media. Right? We just say stuff over and over, out and out to whoever. We don't care who's listening. It's all about us. Right? It's all about me making the connection with myself. I want my voice heard in the marketplace of ideas, regardless of whether it's an idea or not. There's an old saying that people used to say all the time, you get to a certain age, right? And I don't care what anybody says, I'm going to speak my mind. To which I often bite my tongue and say, I wish you had a mind to speak. But more important, I wish you had a heart to speak. I wish you had something that was bigger than you, that was what you were all about. And that's what Jesus is talking about today. He's talking about the sense that stop speaking out into the darkness. We are built, made, created for relationship. Like ultimately, right? At the very beginning in Genesis, God makes humanity, makes them in God's image, male, female. He makes it in the second piece of Genesis about this Adam. He cannot find anyone who is his connection, is his relationship. So the creation from his side, his equal, his mirror image in Eve. And so from the very beginning, we are called to be in a relationship with God and one another. We are not called to be in a relationship to shout at the darkness, right? As Bruno Mars says, I'm talking to the moon, right? But what he really means, right, is that I'm talking to a real person, but I feel like I'm talking in the darkness. So Jesus says to us in the Gospel of St. Matthew that we spend a lot of time, sharing our opinions, right? And I always say about opinions are like small children who go to school, and it's that one day where they do show and tell. Opinions are show and tell for adults. And so that's kind of what social media is as well. And so this is what he's saying. And you know what happens when you do show and tell as a kid? A kid gets up there, right, and starts showing his toy, and no one's paying attention. Because all they're fixated is on their own toy and their own trends. Like, I'm waiting for my turn, I don't care what you're saying. And so Jesus is saying that's the world he lives in. And the reality is that's kind of the world we live in today. My opinion, my show and tell, just I'm waiting my turn. And so he continues by saying, we played the flute for you and you did not dance. We sang a dirge, but you did not mourn. So in other words, there's a music to our lives. But that music doesn't come from us. It comes from God. We are surrounded by God. God is in the grass and God is in humanity. God is in the trees and God is in the development and the creation of cars. Without the technology of humanity, they would not exist. And so the question is, this is God speaking to us over and over and over again. And we don't listen. Instead, we focus our attention on ourselves. We're inward focus. And he's saying, this is not working. He continues and he talks about John the Baptist. And he said, for John came neither eating nor drinking. He was like incredibly austere. And he talked to you about how you should behave. And all you could say to him is that he was possessed by a demon. In other words, they did not want to internalize John's message of repentance. He says, the Son of Man comes. He's talking about himself, eating and drinking. He said, look, he's a glutton and a drunkard. Right? In other words, no matter what a prophetic person says or does, we see them through the lens that we can discredit them, because then that would mean we have to change our opinion. And Jesus calls us to change our opinion. He says, we're friends of a tax collector and sinners, but wisdom is vindicated by her works. And we know that throughout the culture of ancient Near Eastern history, that a woman represents wisdom, right? And that is a piece, a recent article I was listening to about how a woman comes to counterbalance, to mirror us, to show us what we are doing that's right and wrong, and it comes out as Eve. But if we really feel like the story of Adam and Eve is about boys and girls, it's just like we've got to grow up at some level and see that it's something much bigger. It's something much more powerful, something more important about our own makeup, our own struggles, our own challenges, in the sense that we need a mirror to see us and say, wisdom says don't do that. Wisdom says look at yourself, look at what you said. Maybe rethink how you're going to live your life going forward. And I think that really kind of brings us to our work today in Celebrate Recovery. So I'm using John Baker's book, Celebrate Recovery, right? And I'm in the first chapter, right? And it talks about the principles that will change your life, the road to recovery, right? And I'll kind of go through all of these because, like I said, this is kind of an introduction. But he uses the letters recovery, R-E-C-O-V-E-R-Y, right? Principles 1 through 8. And so the first principle is realize I'm not God, which is really what we're talking about tonight, realizing the fact that we're not God. And then I'm powerless to control my tendencies to do the wrong thing, and that my life is unmanageable. And that's part of step 1. Happier are those who know they are spiritually poor. And we'll go through all the other principles too, and you can certainly go on Amazon or whatever and get this book, and we'll be talking about it for the next few weeks. We'll be talking about it forever on Fridays at 6 o'clock. But I just want to focus in really on that realize I'm not God, right? Happy are those who are spiritually poor. And so he's talking about what he says, happy are those that are poor in spirit. That comes from the Beatitudes. That's also the Gospel of St. Matthew, but that's chapter 5. And in chapter 5 begins on verse 1. When Jesus saw the crowds, again he uses the crowds. Again he's talking to people who are absolutely in the midst of the culture. Like they don't see as if there's anything wrong. And we're called to be reflective, right? That's what this is all about. He went up to the mountain, right? He saw the crowds. He goes up to the mountain, and after he sat down, his disciples came to him. And then he began to speak and taught them, saying, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So I'm just going to stop right there. So in other words, there's a crowd, and then there's people that are going to try to break from the crowd, that are going to break from the same old way of doing things and take a risk to do something different. That risk is following Jesus Christ. That risk is getting involved with something like Celebrate Recovery. And so principle 1 is this, realizing I'm not God, which I hope is easy, but sometimes it's a bigger task than we want to admit. I admit that I am powerless to control my tendencies to do wrong and things that my life is unmanageable. And so tonight we're just going to talk, and I'm going to shut the video off because this is a part and parcel to being with the group, right? Am I wearing a mask of denial over what do I really have control? So we're going to work on those 2 questions tonight on our journey, this amazing recovery journey, this journey that talks about everything from struggles with addictions across the continuum, whether it's alcohol, drugs, sex, porn, anger, fear, social media, our phones in particular or in general, all those things that we want to just come clean and be honest about. And so in being in this first day, and being in this first principle that we're not God, and to realize that there are things that there are tendencies that we can't control ourselves, and that we're going to work on those for a while, and that we're going to talk about the mask that we're wearing and what we really do or don't have control over. And so I hope that those who are with us online will see this and say, you know what, I got to get myself down there one of these days. I'll come down on a Friday at 6 o'clock. And so for that, I wish you all Godspeed and goodwill, and we'll be here with our regular group. All right, God bless.